Welcome to LinkedUp, Breaking Boundaries in Education, a podcast that focuses on what is happening in education today, connecting everyone to the movers and shakers that are breaking boundaries in the education arena.
Welcome to LinkedUp, Breaking Boundaries in Education. It's Jamie and Jerri here. And, this is an education podcast. So we have lots of connections and people that we know in the education world, but many of our guests have come from an event that Jerri goes to annually called DENT. Jerri, can you explain it a little bit? Because our guest today is one of those amazing guests who you happen to have met at DENT. So tell us a little bit more about that.
My pleasure to talk about DENT. DENT comes from the idea, Steve Jobs has a quote that you can't change the universe, but you can put a dent in it. DENT is a gathering of people that all want to make a difference. They are people from all walks of life. They're all very innovative, very inspirational, and they're ready to make a dent. And they're all ages. I love that about it as well. So we gather together, and it's a conference where it's like TED Talks, but then after the TED Talks, you go to dinner with these people, you have happy hour with them, you spend a lot of time getting to know them.
You mentioned a cocktail party for one of them. I was like, well, I thought you met them at DENT, but I see. You mix up fun. I got it. Okay.
Right. So you really do get to know these people, and it becomes almost like a family. I meet people at DENT that I stay in contact with constantly. Wow. And it's really exciting. Now, I want to tell you how I met our guest today.
Okay.
So it wasn't just DENT. We actually met in a class where we were learning to pick locks. How do you like that? Now, let me share this picture with you.
Okay, wait a minute.
Can you see our picture?
Oh my gosh, let me move this.
So we were in Santa Fe and we were taking a class. Steve Robach, who is one of the inventors of DENT, was giving this class on how to pick locks. Now, we weren't doing it for clandestine reasons.
Okay, yes, I was wondering.
Yeah, like he said, you never know when you're going to need to pick a lock and get into something. But let me tell you, all of us at this table just bonded immediately because we were all so excited when we got the lock to open. And the enthusiasm and excitement was just amazing. And so I met Narda Pitkethly. I always have a hard time saying her last name. So I call her Narda, but Pitkethly.
She's like Madonna or Cher.
She is like Madonna or Cher, yes. That is how we met picking locks. And before we get started, I have to ask, welcome, Narda. Have you picked any locks?
Yes. I had a friend who locked herself out of her car. I carry my lock picking tools with me in my little purse, just the two I like the most. And that was just so much fun. She said, can you come over and help me? I said, I bet I can.
Actually,
I'd love to try.
Well, fantastic. We are so excited to have you here today because as Jamie said earlier, most of our guests are educators, but many times we have someone out of education come and talk to us.
But it's always an education related, regardless, right? It's always an impact on education, on students.
Right. And what I love about it is it brings these people to teachers who don't have time to go out and find them, right? Yeah. And hear the story. This story is one that can change people's lives. Absolutely. And it is about teaching people to read. So Narda, let's get started with you telling us just a little bit about your background and how you got started with helping people learn to read when you weren't an educator.
Yeah, it's a very interesting story how I ended up here teaching people to read and developing a program that's very simple to teach people to read. I was raised, my father was a doctor in the Army, and so we moved a lot, which I loved. I loved, where are we going next? Where are we going next? One of the places we lived that has to do with creating this reading program, we lived in Japan. When I was a little girl, we lived in Japan for 2 years. And I really enjoyed being in a different country for the first time in my life as a 6-7-year-old little girl. And then we came back to the States and finished up my childhood and ended up going back to Japan after college. And I stayed for 3 years in Japan. And that's really the beginning of my story. I'm actually an artist. I went to school. I'm a glass blower. You can see some work in the background.
Yes, beautiful.
And I'm an artist. I went to Japan to work to teach English and live there. And when I got there, I realized I needed to learn Japanese.
And that must be difficult.
Well, the Japanese have created, they said, first learn to read. So I said, wow, that sounds kind of crazy, but okay, if that's what you think, I can do that. I'm visual. So the Japanese devised a simple system to teach people to read. They've got 2,000 characters for kanji, their main written word. But it was so hard for young people to learn enough kanji that they could really read proficiently. It took years and years and years of schooling. So they developed a very simple program called hiragana. One simple symbol for each sound in Japanese. And they organized them in these columns that were similar to each other, similar sounds. So they said, here's the chart. Every morning when you wake up, do your writing of these characters and sounding them. And then when you go out in your day, find them everywhere underneath the kanji. They live under the kanji. And then at night, before you go to bed, do the same thing. So every day I did this, and I could recognize more and more sounds, more and more kanji with the hiragana under it. By the end of the week, I could read everything.
By the end of the week,
I could read everything I saw by the end of the week. I didn't know what I was reading.
Right. But you were
but I learned Japanese very quickly through this visual path, because I'm very visual. So I picked it up quite quickly after that. So then fast forward, I leave Japan. I come back to the United States, Idaho, Ketchum, Sun Valley, Idaho, and start putting down roots here. I got married. We had kids, and our daughter in the first grade was a challenged reader. I thought, that is so interesting. I learned to read Japanese in a week, a foreign language, and my daughter is English as a first language, and we only have 26 letters. How can this be?
Right.
So I started dissecting and exploring the alphabet and the sounds. And I discovered something quite amazing. Why don't you show our first slide? So what I found is that of our 26 letters, 12 make only one sound. And those are the easy letters.
Those are the easy ones.
Here are the 14 that make multiple sounds.
6?
And
H makes 6?
H is involved in alone and with other letters makes 6 different sounds.
Right,
and
like the PH and yeah.
Yes.
Okay, CH. Yes, okay.
Yeah, SH, TH, GH. It goes on and on. Well, 6 of them. And then H by itself also makes horse. But look at the vowels are the worst. The A makes 4, E makes 4, I makes 4, O makes 5, and the U makes 4. Of course, a lot of people know about the 4 sounds of Y.
Right.
But a lot of people don't know about the 3 sounds of C, D, E. F makes 2 sounds. N makes 2 sounds. I'll give you an example. Let's go to the next slide for our first. I've got 2 examples. So here is an example of the 4 sounds of S. In our program, every letter has a main sound. And the main sound of S is the most common one, snake. But the S also makes the sugar, sure. And that symbol is everybody's favorite symbol. The square is your lips, the line is your finger, and the sound it makes is shh.
Okay, got it. Okay.
And then one of the second most common sounds of S is the Z. Is, was, always. Very common. There, I simply put a letter under the letter instead of creating another symbol, because that kept the program simple.
Okay.
And then look at television.
Right.
That's a whole nother sound.
That is completely different. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
So this is interesting. So again, you took that concept of reading Japanese with the visual components and applied it to reading English.
So people would know what sound the letter makes.
By looking at it, not having to look at combinations, not having to, try to guess, but here they have a very simple visual representation of what the sound makes. Let's look at another one.
Yes.
So this one is E. This is the 4 sounds of E. And the first is E, tree, right? That's the main sound of E. And then as an elbow, and that's a little smile. We call that a smile symbol. And then the most common sound in the English language is often called the schwa. We call it the up arrow.
Right.
And every vowel can make this sound. It's a very common sound.
Yeah.
And then E makes ooh, as in grew.
Right. Oh, so that triangle we'll see again. That up arrow we'll see again. I got it.
And so one of the things I want to tell you while we're looking at this slide is that I was able to create this program with only 12 symbols. And only 12, because I use letters under letters whenever I can to keep it simple. People already, in the way the program starts, is that we teach people the main sounds of every letter. And then we start teaching the easiest symbols first. And we play games and do exercises. And actually, we read a book that only has those sounds that they've learned. It's minus 6 sounds of the English language. I was told you can't write a book with minus 6 sounds of the English language. And I managed to write a very funny book because I love humor. Doesn't everybody love humor?
Of course.
Very funny, simple book so that students could practice sounding out words without having to wonder what sound the letter makes.
Right.
And because I'm not an educator, there's no combining letters except where they have to be combined like TH and SH and CH, those, but I don't have blends and I don't have rules. And it's just very straightforward. The student learns every sound of every letter in 6 1-hour lessons.
6 1-hour lessons. Wow.
Yes.
Wow. Now,
basically.
What age group do you find mostly leveraging this?
4 years old to adults who never learned to read.
Really?
And it depending on the setting. So 6 lessons is basically a challenged reader that doesn't have any other real blocks like a severe learning challenge or a very young student. We break the lessons in half and it takes 12 lessons. But then there's reading and practicing your skill. So basically we stretched out to about 15 lessons is how we do it. And we have an online program where I'm teaching the parent or the teacher how to teach the program in about an hour. And then we've got the 6 lessons and everything is included. And it's just very simple. People, you can see on the testimonial page of our website that people learn to read in less than a month or come up to grade level.
Wow.
This is so important because Jamie and I were both middle school teachers. And although I was language arts, I would get students that could not read in 6th grade. I had no idea what to do with them and how to catch them up quickly. This is amazing. This could be something that would get them with the rest of with their peers quickly. And also, I can't imagine what it does to self-esteem.
Yeah, absolutely. I was thinking that too. And, other reading programs that are out there take, I don't know, a lot of time and money for teachers, just teachers, to learn the program. But it sounds like what your online program does is not only you have a version to teach students, but also to teach teachers as well. And how long does it take for teachers to learn how to teach this?
About an hour.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
It's very simple. You go to our website, Nardagani.com, and you buy the program. It's very inexpensive. And I just walk you through the introduction / teacher training. And I say, okay, this is why we're here. I give the little background, and then I say, first, this is what we're going to do. And then this is what we're going to do. I hold your hand through the whole process. And there are 3 different types of people who go through the teacher training. One is a teacher who wants to teach their students. And we have a pricing structure to go into schools that's different from the individual online program.
Gotcha.
Sure.
The second are parents, homeschool parents.
Yes, sure, of course.
They can learn in 1 hour with me walking them gently through the program how to teach their child to read, to catch them up if their school doesn't have our program yet. And then the third are high school students and older who don't really want to have a tutor walk them through this. I'm walking them through this. I walk them through the teacher training first, if they're learning it on their own. And I say, this is what we're going to be doing. And then we go into lesson 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And again, we break the lesson up. If it's a younger student, maybe 3rd, 2nd, 1st grade kindergarten, or if it's a really challenged student, then we can break it up and they break it up, because I'm walking them through the whole thing. It's an interactive program.
Oh, great. Yeah, that's what these reading programs that are out there, like I said, the problem is that not only does it take so much time and so much money, but because of that, very few teachers in a school are trained. So it's really hard to get students to have that time with those individual teachers. Everyone wants to have so-and-so teacher because they have had that teaching experience. But with this, it is so accessible. It seems to me like a no-brainer. This is incredible. I can't wait to share it.
And those teacher manuals that they use to try to teach, they're so complicated.
Yeah, we do have a simple teacher manual for going into schools, so the teacher doesn't have to go online to remind themselves. It's there in front of them. I wanted to mention that when we were building the digital program, we had an option of having a teacher training, an expensive teacher training, a separate teacher training, or what we chose to do is to make it all together and make it inexpensive. So really everything is included in the program, the teacher training and the lessons, and there's more to tell you about in just a little bit.
Oh, good. Very exciting.
I'm wondering too, what about our English language learners?
Well, that is going to be in 2 slides.
All right.
Oh, okay. All right.
Okay. Shall I go on to the next slide?
Yes, please. This slide represents a pilot program that we conducted in the fall of 2020 at a very rural area of Idaho, southern Idaho, Buell School District. It's one of the poorest areas of Idaho, counties of Idaho. So there was a lot of need. The literacy rate was quite low. And we went in and we taught the whole 6th grade to read in 3 months. And we did the pre-test is in blue. You can see that, and 76 students completed the course. You can see some of them couldn't read at all. And then we have a little jump but these are sixth graders, and you see that they're reading below grade level. A lot of them are here in the third, and then they come into the fourth. And then we've got a few that were really good readers. So that's where we started, was the pre-test. And it was in middle of September that we had all the students tested so we could have a baseline. And then there was a teacher that was very excited to teach our program. And she taught, and she spread it out. And COVID was in full swing. It was the fall of 2020. So a lot of kids weren't even getting to school. So we really stretched it out to this 3 months so we could try to get as many kids as we could, these lessons that she was teaching there. So then in middle of December, we did the post test, and you can see in orange that, all of the beginning read, the students that couldn't read jumped up. And then there were these spikes.
Wow.
I talked with the people who did the testing and the teacher about the spikes that went down. And they said, well, sometimes people have a bad day. You just never know. But the majority of the spikes are going up.
Way up.
Right.
And, and I can tell you that the student median reading gains were 3.8 to 5.0 grade equivalent growth. And the overall improvement was 1.2 grade levels.
Wow.
And spelling went up as well.
And that improvement happened over 3 months.
3 months.
That wasn't a full school year.
Right.
Yes.
Exactly. So it's going up a grade level in 3 months. Yeah.
Right. Wow.
Exactly. And a lot of these, look at all the kids that went up 3.8 to 5 grade levels.
More than that. Exactly.
Yes. And I look at the ones at the bottom, the 2 through 10 that really couldn't read, right?
Yeah.
And now they're about, fourth grade level. That really can get you places to be able to read like a fourth grader.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah.
And then with practice, because once they learn the 12 symbols,
yes,
through playing the games and the exercises and the little books, then they practice reading and practice their new skill of sounding out words through books that are coded with our symbols, and they're funny, engaging stories.
Aww.
I love humor. And they want to keep reading the next book, because they're engaging and humorous. And often when they get to a book that is harder than their grade level, this happens not just in this school, but across a lot of students and people teaching their kids to read, they say, and we talk about it in the teacher training portion of our program, they might be a third grader and they've read all the books up to that level, but go ahead and entice them with the fourth grade book and say, this is above your level, but you can sound out words now and the symbols are there. And so often students test out one grade level higher than the grade level that they were even challenged in the first place. And we have video testimonials on our testimonial page of that example of that happening.
That's incredible. Of course, the books are engaging, as you described, and humorous, but they are also motivated because of the self-esteem that has been built. And also the fact that there's such a strong scaffold in place so that they can go above their just right level and into, something that might be instructional or even frustration level. But because of these strong scaffolds in place, because of the self-esteem that's been built, they're going and they're becoming risk takers at the same time, which is really, really fantastic as well. Oh my gosh.
Another point that people ask, what about the symbols? Do they have to have them forever? Well, in Japan, those hiragana symbols are underneath the kanji everywhere all the time. And that's what I thought. I thought, oh, they're always going to need symbols. That's not what happens. They're like training wheels on a bicycle. Once they learn the bike, they don't want the training wheels. Those symbols are in their mind. And when they get to a word that they don't know, they're like, oh, here's an A. It could be this, this, or this. And their mind does this little exercise where it can figure out which sound, and they can sound out the word, and they don't need the symbols anymore.
Well, now they're learning to put it in context. They're to use context clues, and there are other reading skills that they've been learning along the way in combination with this. So now, just like you said, those training wheels, that scaffold can be removed, and they're able to put this into place.
Right. And they learn to sound out words. They get how to, instead of guessing or giving up, they know, okay, here's a word. And words go from being scary to being fascinating. I wonder what this word is. I can figure this out. Because you're right, their confidence goes through the roof.
And I love also that some of the reading programs that tend to work take a long period of time. They take up a lot of time in class, and it's in isolation. It's a lot of repetitive practice that is in isolation of actual in reading, like words embedded in a book, in an authentic situation. Mm-hmm. Here, they are learning to read with that authenticity of these words being in a story. And so they're learning those context clues along the way. Mm-hmm. Oh, wow. I just keep learning more about this and how really... Now, is this in, now you talked about how homeschool parents, individual teachers, but is this in certain school districts? Have school districts adopted this?
The program itself has been approved by the Idaho State Department of Education. That was big. And we are just now preparing to go into schools. We're just at the beginning. Now we've got the program, everything works very well for the individuals and the parents and the teachers. And parents are finding our program because they go online and they're like, what do you mean I can pay this much? It's very inexpensive. And then they try it and they're thrilled, and then they want their school to get involved. And so now we're just entering that phase where we have a pricing structure and license agreements all laid out and teacher manual, and we're also able to work with teachers who, like in rural areas, we've got a different way to teach than the online, and schools that have the online, everybody's all set. We can do that, which makes it even easier.
Hey, the power of a parent, right? This has emerged because you realized my daughter is struggling. There's got to be a better way. And you're not an educator, you are not a reading specialist, yet you took common sense in what you've learned in your world experiences and said, I think there is a better way. And you were so intrigued with it and motivated to help your child that you developed this. I think it is fascinating. And it's interesting because I've been talking to a lot of ed tech CEOs recently, and a lot of these ed tech startups have emerged because of a need of their own child. So I really find this powerful, how this began, this start to this that you've created. And I just think it's so generous of you to make it so accessible. And I think that because of that, we're going to be seeing this around with obviously in the United States, all over. And I think it's going to be a big deal.
Well, we have individuals in 42 of the US states using our program, teachers and parents and individuals, grown-ups, teaching themselves to read through our program with me as their tutor, and in 42 states and 74 countries.
Around the world. Everyone has to learn to read. Yeah. Wow. That's incredible. That's incredible. Now, so that is all over. And then how are people finding out about it? I know that I just through our emails when we were talking, I said, oh, she did a TEDx. Yes. So I clicked it, and I'm not going to lie, I cried a little bit. I did. It was so inspiring. You are just a joy to listen to, by the way, and you are now as well. But what I thought was really interesting were your statistics on the rate of literacy and the parallel to incarceration. So I thought that was, and you did go into Did you go into prisons?
Yes.
Yes.
We did our early pilot programs when we were still figuring out, what symbols and what order to teach the symbols and what games and exercises and books would work. And so we did our testing in jails and prisons, and it was fantastic.
And good results. And I want to hear more about the TED Talk, but what is the timeline of all this? When did it start? Then you were in Japan. You had your daughter. You realized there's a better way. You started studying our language, and now you mentioned the study that you did was in 2020. What was in between? And you were testing this out with those who were imprisoned in what year? You said?
Well, it was probably because I'm not an educator and I'm more of an artist than a business person. It took me a long time to develop the program. Plus, I'm a perfectionist and I just needed to know. We actually I'm going to tell just a quick story. We had some venture capitalists that approached me and my team and said, we want to take this forward and get it out there on the market. And this was in 2015, 2016. And I said, it's not ready. We hadn't had a real study, we've done all these little things, but we need real teachers to teach this program. And Dr. Jeffrey Wilhelm at Boise State, who is a literacy, actually, he's an internationally recognized literacy expert, Dr. Jeffrey Wilhelm. He stepped up and said, okay, you do need teachers to teach this in classroom settings and in outside the classroom setting. And so he gathered teachers and we did our first real, study. We did a teacher research study is what he called it. And that's where we were given some amazing tips on methodology. There were 6 things he said to do, and they were game changers. One of them was one of the symbols. He said, this symbol, it was the schwa. I'm like, one symbol I don't have to make up. He said, it's too hard. Do something else. So I said, what about an up arrow? So we tweaked, changed, edited the program from that study. And then I had the opportunity to get up on stage and do the TEDx talk.
And that was 2017.
That was 2017. And the TEDx talk came out in 2018. And that's when people understood it for the first time. Before the TEDx, it was like, what? What are you doing and why? And in that TEDx talk, which is under 10 minutes, I explain why we're doing it and how it works and give examples. And suddenly we had some real people that came together to make a team, to give us funding, and we built the digital program.
I got it. So that was 2017, but it came out like on YouTube in 2018. How many viewers now?
1.3 million views.
It's incredible.
And growing. And people from all over the world, these people in the 74 countries, when I do get to talk with them through email, I said, how did you find this program here in Idaho? And they said, well, I found your TEDx talk. And then I went to your website and then was able to find out more. So.
Wow. See, I mean, people have to go through the internet to find you when Jerri just found you at a lock picking class or in a tent. So
we need more lock pickers.
Oh my gosh, that's incredible. That is incredible. I just can't wait to share this because we're educators. So I just can't wait to share this with all my teacher friends. I can't wait. I am so excited.
Well, it's amazing because teachers tell me, all the time I'm getting emails and phone calls and teachers especially say, I've been working with this student who's in middle school or high school or elementary school. I've been working with them for 3 years with no forward movement. Mm-hmm, and the first class I taught them of yours, they're engaged, the symbols, we have a methodology. We start with the silent letter. There are silent letters placed in so many words and we underline them And right there, we start with that, and the students go, oh, I can see them. I can see the silent letters. They're not going to confuse me anymore. And they get engaged within 15, 20 minutes. And I hear it over and over and over again. And then they make fabulous progress with their students.
The self-esteem is being built because it's a simple, accessible program. It's so exciting. I want to actually like go through it myself too, to like do it, because that's what's so great about it, is that it's short enough for me to actually do it, and that way I can really speak about it better when I share it with people.
You'll be able to go through the teacher training in 45 minutes to an hour, and the 6 lessons in about 2 hours, very easily. Oh, there's one more thing I wanted to say. I built a masterclass, and all it is a 20-minute video that shows how we teach the program. It goes in more depth with some of the symbols, and it shows you how we teach the program. And at the end of the 20-minute video is a view inside our program. So you can see, oh, there's the introduction teacher training, there's the 6 lessons, then we have a pronunciation program, a writing program, the teaching materials and extra tips. If a student has trouble with any of the letters of the alphabet or any of the symbols, they can do extra work with little exercises on that. So the masterclass is on our website on the How It Works, at the top of the How It Works page. Click in there, give us your email. We email you the free masterclass. And that's the next step. And then going through the program you can do it pretty easily in under 3 hours at your leisure. It picks up where you left off.
Right. Oh, that sounds perfect.
We made it to be simple because we want people to learn to read that are challenged with reading. And we also want people to learn to read English as a second language. I think we're ready for our next slide. That one with the 5 little, there we go. I love this slide. So here are the vowels. And if you see the blue one, there's the blue A, that's the ah sound. And the symbol, which we like to have symbols that make sense, ah, 2 dots, ah, 2 dots. And that is a very common sound in languages like Spanish and Japanese. But when a person learning English as another language looks at our program, they say, oh my gosh, I didn't realize there were 3 more A's I had to learn. They have to practice using them in their mouth. A, ah, open your mouth wide, and and then ah.
And having it grouped like that is really helpful.
And we also have a pronunciation part of our program that actually shows what's happening. We talk about what's happening in the mouth and the sound, so they can practice over and over and over with the video. And so there's the E, the eh is the most common sound in languages, but they have to practice E, and oo.
Right.
And then the I.
So this is a great way for them to see the differences in the way that they're moving their mouths and the way that it sounds, and then comparing the symbols.
Yeah. And it really helps with pronunciation. I have students all over the world writing to me saying, oh my gosh, I just never understood why it was so hard for me to pronounce words. Well, This makes it make a lot of sense. And these are just the vowels. We also have the other letters that make multiple sounds that have symbols under them too.
We talked about meeting at Dent, putting your dent in the universe. I think you're putting a huge dent in the universe. This is really amazing. But there's even more to this story.
There is.
Are we ready for that?
Let's do it.
So there's a book.
Yes. So
Memoir.
What happened was when my daughter was a challenged reader in first grade, and I had thought about my Japanese experience and started learning the sounds of English and looking at the alphabet, and we had little index cards. My daughter actually helped me. We developed the beginnings of the program. So we had each sound on an index card and then all the different ways you could make it. And that's when I started saying, well, let's put symbols to this. But I got to a point where I said, I'm not an educator. I have no business creating a reading program. This is fine to help my daughter. And I had a great career. And I wasn't going to go down the road of creating something until 2 years later, my brother, who was living here in the Valley not with us, but he had a place and he had a job, and his son was here, and his son is the same age as my son and my daughter. They're all real similar, and we did everything together. Everything you could, outside. It's a very outdoorsy place where we live. And then one day, my brother disappeared, just into thin air. But with all these clues as to what might have happened. He wasn't on a trail. He wasn't hiking. There are all these clues, and people started saying, you need to write a book. I mean, this is a mystery. And then when we couldn't find his body after search and rescue, psychics, people going out on their horses and their dogs and hiking and everywhere, we combed the whole valley. There was something that happened a week before he disappeared that could have made him want to hitchhike out of town. So we believed that maybe he didn't die like some of the clues seem to be pointing to. Maybe he just hitchhiked out of town, maybe for a weekend, maybe for a week, but suddenly there was this huge deal, and maybe he just kept going. So my mother and I decided, well, if I go ahead, and she helped me develop this reading program, and if we call it Narda something, and once it gets to the point where we're helping people so much that I'm on radio, TV, podcasts, well, maybe we could get his attention. He would go, Narda, and there I'd be, having done something fantastic in the world, and we would lure him home.
So another motivator for this program. Oh my gosh.
And the amazing thing is that there is a magical conclusion to what happened to my brother. And it's all right in that book. And people ask me the question, did you ever find your brother? And my answer is, the book is so riveting when you follow my journey along creating, the disappearance. It starts with the disappearance. You can actually go on Amazon and listen to the first 5 minutes of the book. I narrated it for Audible. And so you can get a paperback, you can get Kindle, and you can listen to it. And I wrote the book because not only people just kept saying, this is an amazing story and it's riveting and I like a page turner, but also this book has gotten into the hands of teachers who find the TEDx talk and then they do a little digging and they're like, oh my gosh, there's a book. So they either listen to or read the book, and I talk about the development of the program and the first people I taught and how, but I don't go into it too much because I like the riveting story and I don't want to bog the book down, but just enough that I've got teachers coming saying, okay, watch the TEDx talk, watch the masterclass, read the book, went through the program. I want to be a part of it. I want to use it. We even had someone gave my book to the governor of Idaho's wife. And actually, that's how we ended up in the Buell School District, because she said, I want to meet you. What can I do? And I said, you can open a door. We have a teacher in Buell that wants to use our program. We're having some roadblocks because it's so out of the box. Next thing I knew, we got the thumbs up and we got to go into Buell because of this book.
Wow. When did this book come out?
It came out about 1.5 years ago.
Okay.
And I won a Global Book Award. You see my little award right there?
Yes, you did. This is fascinating. Oh my gosh. I can't wait to get this.
I know. And we don't want to hear. We want to be just enjoying the book and not knowing what happens.
Yes, exactly. And and men love the book too, as you'll see on some of the comments on the back cover. Don't tell your husband what the conclusion is. Just let him read the book too.
Oh my gosh. I'm going to get the Audible. I'm going to listen to it because I love your voice. I love your voice. When I mentioned that, I shared your TEDx talk with my husband and my parents, who are all educators, all three. And we all said the same thing. We loved listening to you. So I'm definitely going to be listening to this. This is more than I thought we were getting here today. I didn't know this was going on. So you surprised me, Jerri, too. You knew a little bit. I didn't know. So this is this is the plot thickens here.
It does.
Mm-hmm.
It does.
You get the whole story right there. It's all true.
So it was the power. I thought it was just the power of parenting. It certainly was there initially, but this was also just the power of love and family for sure. Right? My gosh. Wow.
Well, and of course, realizing through writing the other books writing the series of books that the students read to practice their new skill of sounding out words and increase their grade level, I learned how to write a book for different grade levels. So this book is actually written at a low grade level by short sentences and shorter words, and students read this book. If they're in junior high, high school and above, and they learn to read, and then they read, this is on our suggested reading list, books without the symbols. We have a list in our program, and this is on there, and they read this book, and it's kind of like a Harry Potter. They cannot put it down. Like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen next? And it's very exciting that they get to read a novel. And this is usually their first novel that they enjoy reading. And then they're really hooked.
Yeah. So many gifts you're giving here all around. Really amazing. Really amazing. Oh, I'm so excited.
Before we let you go, we do need to get your website so that viewers can get on the website and find out more.
Nardagani, right there, the name of the book, .com. Nardagani.com.
And if they go there, there's the masterclass. They can sign up. I bet there's a link to your TED Talk.
There's a link to the TED Talk. There's a link to the book. There's the testimonials, the video testimonials are pretty amazing from students, parents, educators. I like video testimonials. They're so great. And you get to see the person's expression and their excitement. Yeah.
Well, and that goes back to the TEDx talk too, because like I said, I did have some tears in there when I was watching the boy with autism learning to read for the first time in 5th grade.
Yeah.
I mean, that was incredible. And he was so pleased with himself. And I just loved it. Loved it.
Yeah. He could not read a single word when I started with him.
Amazing. Amazing. And then it was 8 sessions?
8 lessons.
8 lessons. And this was a boy with autism at 5th grade who hadn't read yet. Yeah. Incredible. Incredible. So I'm just so excited to share this. I'm excited to read this book, share this book. And thank you so much. I mean, this was fantastic. Really. and it was a big surprise to me too. I didn't know I was getting a novel insight as well. So.
Well, thank you. I'm so happy that I met you, Jerri, and I'm so happy that you invited me to be on a podcast and to meet you, Jamie. This has been quite a treat. I've been so excited ever since we set this up to be able to share my story and examples.
Oh, and it is changing the world, changing people's lives.
Yes.
Thank you for the gifts. You have no idea how you have probably affected people.
I forget. I don't know how I can possibly forget, but I get involved, distracted. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening. And if you would like to stay linked up, be sure to follow us on Apple and Spotify and subscribe to us on YouTube.